Good morning, everyone. Many thanks for joining us and hope you are all well. For those who don't know me, I'm Conrad Gillespie. I work for the University of Exeter and I manage the Southwest Centre of Excellence in Satellite Applications. And I'm also chair of the refreshed Exeter Initiative for Science and Technology, otherwise known as EXIST. EXIST is the cutting-edge innovation arm of Exeter Chamber, and we aim to drive regional STEM success by raising awareness of innovative STEM activities and fostering collaborative opportunities for our community of innovators, businesses, public sector and academia across Exeter and the greater Southwest. So if you have an interest in STEM, then get on board, become an EXIST member, and we can help you accelerate your STEM-related initiatives. So many thanks to our sponsors for today's event, Set Squared Exeter, the Satellite Applications Catapult, and their Southwest Centre of Excellence in Satellite Applications, as we'll be finding out later how space-enabled technologies can help the race to net zero. And we really appreciate all the support and engagement from all of our sponsors, and please get in touch if you'd like to get involved in our future events. So here's the programme for today, and we have a fantastic lineup of inspirational speakers to highlight the challenges, innovations and opportunities for zero emission transport, electric vehicle charging infrastructure and regional carbon neutral ambitions. All of our speakers will be presenting on the stage area, which is the tab you can see on the left hand side of your screen. We hope you learn a lot today. I definitely will. And we will also have a virtual networking session around 11 o'clock via the networking tab on the left to give you the opportunity to connect and engage with like-minded people and have conversations that could lead on to greater working relationships and opportunities for growth. If you have any questions for a particular speaker, then please submit them via the chat feature. We will endeavour to answer key questions during the event as we go along. Otherwise, we'll obtain and share answers with you after today's event in a follow-up email. Also, for all the social media lovers out there, please join the Clean Mobility conversations via these Twitter handles. So go on, spread the joy and raise awareness and generate interest. So I'd like to introduce you to our headline speaker now, Claire Gibson, who is Head of Delivery at the Heart of the Southwest LEP, and Claire shall provide a contextual overview of the regional clean mobility challenges and aspirations. So Claire, over to you.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be able to speak to you today. Thanks for the invitation, Conrad. So I'm just going to provide a bit of context, really. First of all, just to say what is going on in the Heart of the Southwest, what the LEP and the partners that we work with have prioritised around clean growth, and then just focus a little bit on a couple of particular areas where we're looking to develop some real innovative projects. I've got 10 minutes, I think, so I'm going to canter through as quick as I can. So first, I'm going to start with our Build Back Better plan, or Build Back Greener, as I like to see it. So this is, in effect, our response to the government's plan for growth and our recovery plan. So it's looking at the medium to long term, so some transformational opportunities for the region, and it builds on the ambition that was set out in the local industrial strategy. As I said, focus on clean but also inclusive growth across the Heart of the Southwest. So we have 7 transformational programs which really look at the dynamic heart that was in the local industrial strategy around energy, engineering and digital futures. But included in that is a focus on sustainable aviation and clean maritime, which I'll come back to shortly. And then the transformational programs are underpinned by 4 enabling programs around business skills, innovation and business support. So part of that, as I've said, is our commitment to clean growth. And so very recently, the LEP board has signed off our blueprint for clean growth, which we'll be publishing in the next couple of weeks. And this is really about trying to grow the economy in a clean and sustainable way, protecting the environment, lowering emissions and enhancing natural capital as well. And we're really looking to work with our partners across the region to be able to deliver clean growth and the opportunities that flow from that. So in that document, we've set out 6 themes, which you can see here, and it is ambitious, deliberately so, because obviously the net zero target that we're all committed to delivering is equally ambitious. But if we don't set the bar high, then we're not going to be able to achieve that. And there are a set of priorities under each of these themes, and the board is taking full responsibility for monitoring the progress regularly against these priorities. So I'm just going to focus on the decarbonisation of the transport system theme for obvious reasons, given the conference today, and these are those priorities. So there are a broad range, some of which you probably won't be surprised to see. So traditional sustainable transport initiatives around walking and cycling, but also trying to embrace the push towards electrical vehicle charging, looking at electrifying at least part of our rail network, trying to make sure that we are looking at how hydrogen can play a part in the region's transport network, particularly around aviation, rail, HGV, transport movements. But I'm going to focus in particular on the last 2. So our ambition to develop a smart aviation cluster and support delivery of an innovative flight demonstration zone, and also to accelerate clean growth in the maritime sector. So smart aviation first. So there is already a really strong aerospace sector, as I'm sure some of you will know, across the southwest. It's actually the second largest in Europe, which I don't think many people do appreciate. We've got some of the main companies working in the aerospace sector in our region, and obviously further up into the west of England. And slowly we're starting to evolve that into a smart aviation cluster, looking at how we can look in particular at rotary technology, electric planes and fuel sources. I've already mentioned hydrogen. We're working with the Department of International Trade to develop what they call a high potential opportunity proposition. So that's really about trying to stimulate inward investment, and we look to see that helping to deliver on our smart aviation ambitions. And then I'll just focus in particular on probably the main project that we have secured funding for recently with a really strong consortium, which is funding from UK RI's Future Flight Challenge, and that's Project 2.0, which is looking to see how you can decarbonise aviation while supporting regional connectivity. So there'll be research into electric and hybrid electric aircraft to try and understand the sort of power management issues that we'll need around storage, distribution charging, around airport infrastructure changes to be able to enable these sorts of services to fly from our regional airports, and what that means then in terms of adapting standards, rules and certification. But there's a really strong consortium, as I've mentioned, that is working on this project. It's led by Ampere, a leading electric aircraft company from the States, but it's got some excellent partners, as you can see here, and we will be seeing the first electric commuter flight in the UK flying from Exeter to Cornwall Airport in the next year or 2. And then The second focus is just on clean maritime. So I'm sure a number of you will already know the strengths that we have in the maritime sector. We're working with a really good set of partners from Taunton, Exeter down to Plymouth around a concept, Ocean Futures, which is about trying to make sure that we really are a centre of excellence globally for testing, development, manufacture of autonomy, digital and clean ocean technologies. And there's a little mistake there. I'm sure some of you have spotted it, and apologies to Plymouth Boat Trips for that, who are doing an exciting project around electric ferries in Plymouth. There's a Clean Maritime Summit planned on the 18th of June, which is linked to MDL Marina's Green Tech boat show. That hopefully will stimulate a lot of conversations and potential collaborations to progress this opportunity. And there are a number of bids being developed to respond to the Department for Transport's current Clean Maritime demonstration competition that is running. And then the last point on there is that linked again to what I've already mentioned, hydrogen's being talked about an awful lot. We need to try and understand what role that will play in our transport system in the future. So I look forward to the rest of the morning and to hearing from the presenters and the networking event. Thanks again for the invitation, Conrad.
So many thanks, Claire, for highlighting the regional clean growth priorities, exciting initiatives and opportunities. Very much appreciated. Really interested in the smart aviation cluster. So I was just wondering, how can STEM stakeholders get involved with the smart aviation cluster?
Yeah, so that's a good timely question, as we're just starting to explore how we can take forward those transformational programs that I mentioned in the Build Back Better plan, and we want to make sure that we're engaging with as many of the stakeholders as possible to help achieve that ambition. So we've already got the iAero cluster. We'll obviously continue to work with them and see how that can evolve, but certainly do get in touch with either myself or my colleague Corinne Matthews if you're particularly interested in working with us to achieve that ambition.
Okay, fantastic. And I'm just having a look. As far as I'm aware, there's no questions for Claire, but please use the chat if you've got any questions. And like I said, we'll try and pick them up during the event today, or with the follow-up email, we can have a range of questions and answers from the particular speaker. So thanks very much, Claire. Absolutely fantastic. And now I'd like to introduce you all to Linda Wookey, who is Director of Policy, Innovation and Engagement at Exeter City Futures, who will talk about the future of a carbon neutral Exeter and the associated urban and rural infrastructure challenges. So Linda, the virtual floor is yours.
That's very kind of you. Thanks, Conrad. Morning, folks. It's great to see so many people taking such an interest in the future of mobility in our region. You just heard from Claire about what's going on in the wider region. I'm going to actually try to draw you into Exeter, but also the relationship that we as an urban centre have, of course, with the rural setting in which we find ourselves. So yes, I am Linda Wookey. I am actually a University of Exeter employee, and I'm contributed then to Exeter City Futures as a Director of Policy, Innovation and Engagement, which means I've got a great privileged position in the city to be able to kind of work with a huge number of people, from community organisations through to local authorities and businesses and everybody in between, and hopefully get a good kind of feel of that, of what's going on. But today we are looking at mobility. I'm going to zoom in, as I said, into what this looks like for Exeter in the future, particularly in the context of the Net Zero Exeter 2030 plan, which I think hopefully most of you will realise that last year about this time last year, actually, we launched for Exeter the Net Zero Exeter 2030 plan with an ambition that the city will become carbon neutral by 2030. It involved quite a lot of work in terms of talking to people about what they wanted for the city, how they thought we'd reach net zero, and setting that 2030 target. But before that, we'd even done some earlier work, and we'd asked them actually what sort of future do we want for our city, and out of all the wonderful conversations that we had, we garnered their opinions and we garnered their vision, and we put them together in this amazing picture, which everybody always comments on when they come to our office. But you can see that a massive focus on what people are imagining for their city of Exeter in the future revolves around transport, revolves around how they get around their city and what they see when they are moving around. And you can see here that people were asking for better pavements and lovely, beautiful green spaces that they can enjoy while they're out and their children can play because they're not battling with the cars. And there are free buses, segregated and safe cycle routes and pedestrianised areas, and a number of cars are significantly reduced, and the air is bright and clean and fresh, and everybody's enjoying the opportunity to grow their own food, and just move around their city really, really easily. We looked at this a little bit closer. You can see we've captured a lot of that in the net zero plan. I'll just go on to that in a second. But it's also ambitions that are captured as well in other strategies in and around Exeter. Exeter and Sport England local delivery pilot have the ambition that Exeter will become the most active and accessible city in England. The Exeter Transport Strategy states that 50% of trips originating and ending in Exeter are made by active modes of transport. And we have a really ambitious plan in the city called that we know as Livable Exeter, which is for 12,000 new homes that will be car free. And that brings a lot of challenges with it, but we'll explore some of those as well. So it's worth noting, actually, with all these amazing plans, and in the net zero plan, we talk about within our car-free space and how we've captured the net zero plan. We've talked about lots of things around how the city would want to introduce low carbon mobility schemes. It basically interconnected low carbon transport and active transport as interconnected and linked up by multimodal ticketing, which makes it super simple to move throughout the city. We've also talked about being able to congregate those opportunities for moving around the city around hubs, and that's whether we are looking at hubs around infrastructure that already exists, or creating new workplace mobility hubs as well in the city. We think that the low carbon mobility scheme, the multimodal ticketing scheme, for example, will save quite a significant amount of carbon. We've captured that in the net zero plan, being nearly 9,000 tonnes of carbon saved a year. It does become quite complex, so the plan has captured things like mobility hubs, which will, we think, reduce the need to travel in the city because people will be able to access places where they can pick up their electric bikes, where they can get on a bus, get easy access to transport, other transport such as trains, and just walk and cycle throughout the city with ease. This involves quite a lot of complex thinking. If you think about that in the context of, say, the idea that we will introduce 12,000 new homes, that's people who are needing places to live, people who are needing places to work, and they will want to move around their city. But that is then looking at how do we reduce that amount of travel that they will need to do by placing those, thinking about where they will work in relation to where they will live. and how they can access it. And then you bring into added complexity the things like, as we've seen through COVID, actually, it's been a massive opportunity to see through COVID what actually living in a world where there are a reduced number of cars will be. So with working at home being more of an opportunity and more acceptable to a lot of organisations, and roughly speaking, we hear stories of organisations talking about maybe only 50% of their workforces now returning to their workplaces on a full-time basis, or perhaps even just part-time, and people are rotating. So we are expecting a lot of people to be working at home. So in the context of mobility, that changes as well. What we might see for our city, in that people might not need to commute so much, that they will want to potentially access amenities that are closer to their home, and how do they move towards those? Does it give us more opportunities to think about pedestrianisation of places? Does it give us more opportunities to green the local community areas and make them a more enticing, more exciting place to be? Does it give us opportunities to connect different types of places? So are we going to see more characterful places in Exeter? Then you move between different neighbourhoods with different types of characters and access different experiences in the city, as well as working understanding how our city centre might work as well. I'm going to give you I know you've been staring at these numbers for a little while, but this is just to kind of give you a context really of how Exeter sits in all of that, and what that challenge of achieving this wonderful place as Exeter is going to it actually looks like. We're labelled or known as in a city as one of the fastest growing cities in the UK. We're currently at around 130,000 residents, but we are served. Obviously, the city doesn't have hard concrete boundaries. We are served by one of the largest travel to work areas as well in the UK. And we estimate that there's around 470,000 residents in that travel to work area. And we know that then we sit within that kind of urban-rural challenge, which we have to then work out how of those 35,000 commuters that we believe come into the city every day, how do they travel into a city which has an ambition where we're not going to be wanting to encourage cars? We're going to reduce the number of cars coming into the city. We would want people to work, be able to travel through the city through cycling and walking and public transport a lot more. But that is a different challenge for a city than it is for a rural situation. So how can we support people who are travelling into the city to enjoy that experience of coming in and working here and travelling around, when actually they have to, the challenge of getting into the city is very different from a rural area, where perhaps they might need a car for being able to travel. What sort of their transport system might that look like? And I know there's conversations about dialer bus and dialer transport and that sort of thing, sort of transport on demand. You can see there, though, that we think that the number of commuters in the next 20 years are going to increase by maybe up to 30%. We know that 80% of those commuters drive into Exeter, and we know that of those commutes that take place in the city, there's about 35%, so just over a third of people commuting within the city, city boundaries, are jumping in their car to do so, and we know that only 6% of commuters in the city are actually cycling at the moment. But you can see there's a huge number of city centre footfall, so it is possible to walk around our city really well. And then we've also talked about new homes in Exeter being in the region of about 12,000 by 2040. Let's put that in a bit of context. What's in terms of that challenge? What are the opportunities starting to look like? We are quite well served in terms of numbers of train stations. We know that to connect the train station to the one bus station we've got, some people are we know that there are 9 train stations in the city, but only 1 bus station. And making sure that those opportunities are really well connected is something that we can look at. We know we've got 3 park and rides. How do we? We know that we've got the e-bike rental locations increasing quickly. There's about 15 or more in the city at the moment. We know that nearly 40% of journeys are made by active travel. And we know that around peak times of travel in the city, that about 50% of people at that point are commuting, but also 50% at that point are actually just travelling for leisure as well. And we've also got a river. So in terms of opportunities, this is the type of infrastructure we have now. So how can we use that infrastructure? In the context of the wider Devon, so we're looking at our challenges then as we serve and support the environment around us. You can see that these are what Devon is looking like. So we've got around 131,000 residents in Exeter. That's supported by we're part of the Devon, County of Devon with 802,000 residents. We know that around over 4,500 miles are driven by car by people in and around Devon every year. That's according to 2019 figures. And we know 988, so nearly 1,000 miles are 988 million miles are driven by light commercial vehicles in and around Devon. And when you look at the heavy goods miles in Devon, that's 236 million miles driven by heavy goods vehicles in the city. So it's a fair challenge to address in terms of how do we meet our net zero targets. And there are challenges as well, some considerations when we look particularly at Exeter. We know we've got a historic infrastructure that we're very, very proud of in the city. We need space. How do we understand our space for that additional capacity, but also in a way that we also reduce our carbon output as well. Electric vehicles are only part of the answer. It's great that we're talking about electrification, and indeed we do in the net zero Exeter plan. We do talk about the electrification of vehicles quite heavily. However, that is not the only answer. The opportunity to electrify freight vehicles, for example, is quite a challenge. So we do, as Claire was talking about, have to look for other opportunities in different types of fuels and different approaches to how we move that freight around, how we move people around the city. People do want more green public spaces, and we are expecting a decline in numbers of people who use offices. So how the function and role of our city is going to change in what we think our city is going to look like, and how we use that understanding to address this challenge. That is going to be interesting. And also in the context of urban rural, so for the context of Exeter to Devon, it is really, really important that we understand that carbon emissions are reduced and not displaced. We've got to think about how we, the carbon emissions that we do generate, how do we reduce them, not export them, and obviously how do we work with those in our surrounding areas to understand how we can support them in doing the same. So I'm going to leave you with a challenge, and my challenge is, and I'd really like you to have a think about this. We stand here today, we've consulted people standing in their own shoes today, looking at trying to understand what future that they do want for them, for their children, for their foreseeable generations. So Exeter remains a great, wonderful place to live and work. However, are we doing ourselves a disservice? Are we thinking about what is possible in the future, when actually what we really should be doing is standing in 2030 and looking back at what decisions we should have been making in order to be standing there in 2030 in the city, in the county that we actually want to be in at that point. And that's what I'd like to leave you with. Imagine yourself in 2030. Imagine yourself in a city or wherever you are. It might not be your city, it might be a town, it might be the countryside. What do you want to be experiencing at that time? We might have already had a glimpse at that with COVID and the experience we've had in the city, being able to walk and people being able to get on their bikes more easily and people being able to enjoy the birds singing and just getting out into our nice, beautiful green spaces. But if you were in 2030, looking backwards, what decisions do we have to be making now? Which decisions must we be making now to make sure that we're in that wonderful place of Exeter that we want it to be? Thank you, Conrad.
Many thanks, Linda. The aspirations are great, and we can all help to tackle some of these key challenges for a cleaner future. So Linda has come up with some really inspirational thoughts. So if anyone's got any ideas, please put it in the chat feature. And it's really good to find out your thoughts about what you think the future should look like. And as Linda said, what we should be doing now. And then also, Linda, I've got a question that's just come in. So what is the recent growth in population of Exeter, and what is forecast in terms of population for the next 10 years? And how many people will want to be mobile in and around the city? And then what is the plan to support the mobility of these people?
So there's three in there. So population growth. You're testing me now. I have a recollection of a Centre for Cities report saying that Exeter is the fastest growing city in the UK. Hopefully, I will go away and have a look at this, but I believe it's something that is growing by 1.72% year on year or something like that. Don't quote me. I will have to go and have a look at that. In terms of what people are thinking in terms of how they will want to increase active travel, I think that's what you're saying. So walking and cycling in the city and what we think that will increase by. There is an aspiration in Exeter that we will see at least 50% of journeys in the city taking place via active travel, choice in active travel. So people walking and cycling in the city. That's supported by strategies such as the Sport England local delivery pilot. So we're very, very fortunate to have an amazing programme in the city supporting us in our endeavours as a population to look at how we can access walking, how we can access cycling. And of course, we've had some amazing opportunity that born out of an incredibly difficult situation like COVID, to look at what that can look like and how quickly we can put those new measures in and really test the city in that respect. So we have seen new temporary walking and cycling measures go up, and we're looking and we're seeing the results and outcome of that in people wanting to explore whether they can keep those measures as well. So the appetite, COVID, the past years really give us an understanding of people's appetite for that. So it's great that we're able to have a program in the city that can really help us build momentum with the numbers of people wanting to walk, who are actually wanting to walk and cycle at the moment.
Fantastic. All really, really good stuff. And we can all help, as I said, with the future of Exeter. Thanks very much, Linda. If anyone wants to get involved, you know, to get in touch with Linda. So
Thanks, Conrad.
Cheers. And next up, we have Professor Chris Smith from the University of Exeter, who will highlight the new innovative Centre for Future Mobility and will outline how you can get involved to accelerate your clean mobility innovations. So Chris, away you go, sir.
Hi, good morning, everyone. And thanks, Conrad, for the invite to come and talk to everyone this morning. Now, I've got my slides up. There we are, brilliant. And I've got my clicker here as well. So thanks. I'm one of the profs in engineering in the university, and I'm also director for the Centre for Future Clean Mobility. And we'll see what on earth that means in reality as we go through. So I'll skip over that one there. Okay, so it's an industry-facing research center. So we're academics. We do academic stuff, you know, big equations, lots of computer simulation. But we always work with industry, and I'm going to show you some pictures of some real, tangible products, new things that have come out with our help. So we're always working with companies in the Southwest, in the UK, and internationally. So we are committed to leading the next generation of clean mobility. What we do is powertrains, and I'll say a little bit more about what that means. But basically, it's the way that you provide power to make something move: the bus, the train, the boat, the airplane, whatever it is, right? It moves and for people and for things, goods. Okay, so you can go and buy a Tesla right now. In fact, I was looking at one the other day, or the Hyundais and the Kias. They're quite nice too. The point is, actually, road cars, we are pretty well served now in terms of real world commercially viable choices, available choices for mobility on our roads. And we've got the legislation coming in which will pretty much see off those the rest of the internal combustion engines by 2030. So, but what about what we're interested in? And the question for everyone here is, what about all the other stuff on the road and off the road and in the air and around the back of our houses, on the railway and in the ports in our cities? Here's a fact for you, right? About 50% of all transport emissions, CO2 emissions, come from road cars. But what about the other 50%? You can buy an electric road car, but you really struggle to buy an electric maintenance rail vehicle. You'll struggle to buy an electric workboat or an electric bin lorry or road sweeper. So that's what, and these things are much bigger and much more complicated than road cars. So the reality is you can't take a solution from a Nissan Leaf and put it in a bin lorry. Just wouldn't work. Okay, so that's what we do. I'll come back to that issue about the. It's not just about the scale of the emissions; it's about where those emissions occur as well. So okay, so powertrains. Oh yes, here we go. There's a little explanation. No, we'll go back. Powertrains, what we do is design and test. So we have some pretty unique, I think as far as we know, it's worldwide unique design methodology for powertrains. And the issue is clean powertrains, so zero emissions powertrains, are really difficult compared to diesel or petrol powertrains, because the energy sources are so much worse than diesel and petrol. Diesel and petrol are great fuels if it wasn't for all the other issues associated with global warming, etc. connected to them. They're very, very good. So designing powertrains for really demanding work vehicles, heavy work vehicles, work boats, whatever, that really provide the functionality for that vehicle and vessel, it's really difficult. We are at the beginning of our journey into electrification, and there just isn't the range of motors, batteries, power converters, etc. out there that we really need. Not right now. So that's our academic job, if you like, and we're pretty unique in that. But as of September, and thank you very much to the Heart of the Southwest for their investment in that, we will open, I think it's unique in the UK, it's a engine powertrain test centre for complete zero emission powertrains, and we'll have everything in there that we need to not just design a powertrain, but actually put one together and test it. Does it actually do what we think it should do? Okay, so that's our key ability, and we're already getting. I can't mention names, of course, but internationally known automotive and other companies working with us and beginning to call us up and say, "Can we come and use your facilities?" There is huge demand in industry for this. So this is who we are. Obviously, there's me and there's some of my partners in crime there. We are fairly small at the moment, but we're growing. We're based out in Science Park. We will be based out in Science Park as of September when the builders hand it over. And that's us. So why? What on earth are we doing here? Okay, well, there's a lot of societal pressure. I think we all agree about getting rid of hydrocarbons and the emissions associated with them. But there's also regulatory pressure, and that is one of the key things that drives industry to do something and produce new products. Okay, so we got the UK commitment to net zero 2050 in law. Boris's 78% announcement the other day. This is great. Let's see where it ends up. Central London has at the moment a low emission zone that will go to a zero emission zone in 3 years and 3 years and 7 months and counting. Now, just think about all construction in London, for instance, or Exeter, or Bristol, or any other city like that. It's all diesel based. All of the equipment there is operating either directly from a diesel engine or a diesel engine generator, which is providing electricity. All that goes. There is one commercial option, which is a 250-ton electric electric crawler crane, which is completely unsuitable for most construction. There is a dire need to get some commercial zero emissions vehicles for construction onto the market. Otherwise, it won't happen. And we'll have to decide, are we serious about zero emissions? In which case, we've got to support those things or not. So that's our business. That's what we're doing. There's some nice pictures. I like pictures. Everyone likes pictures. Nice pictures of some things that we've done. And we'll go through those in the subsequent slides as case studies. They're all Devon-based as well. So that's the other thing. Okay, so I won't dwell on that. That's boring. As is that. Let's get straight to it. There we are. And that beautiful building there. It's a new building on Exeter Science Park. So it's great for us because we're right very close to the M5 and the airport. So very convenient. But you all know Exeter. So on with the case study. So what have we been doing in the last few years? So Quattro, that's a big yellow excavator there. You'll notice that there are rail wheels on the front. So this is the excavator you'll see on any kind of building site or work site, right? But this one's got rail wheels, and those rail wheels can be deployed and it turns itself into a train. Quattro are the biggest supplier of plant and operators into Network Rail for maintenance. So they are operating, I've got a picture here actually. They are operating round the back of your garden. Well, someone's garden if it's not yours. There's a picture of some, and Quattro bought this company a while ago. So they, as you can see, there's a number of diesel-powered vehicles there, and they'll be there for hours and hours, probably over several days, and they're at the back of someone's garden. So, and they're dirty. They're really, they emit a lot of CO2, particulates, and NOx and SOx as well. So we've been working with Quattro. Quattro want to go clean. They don't want to have any diesel anywhere. That's not possible for them at the moment. So we have been working with them for the last 2-3 years on a variety of projects, including on a vehicle like that excavator there, and helping come up with solutions that remove the diesel and replace it with battery and or hydrogen. Okay, so next week we unveil a new zero emissions road rail vehicle like that thing there. So we've got a lot of that going on, and this is a nice story. This is eVoyager, which is a small boat owned and operated by Plymouth Boat Trips. Plymouth City want to go clean on the ferries in and out of the city, mainly across the Tamar, I think. And they've asked Plymouth Boat Trips, who operate many of those ferries, to do so. They've responded with this, and that was a project with us and Plymouth Boat Trips, but also a few other, Plymouth University, but also a couple of other Devon companies, EV Parts and Cambridge Propellers. And that's a small boat, but the next step is this one, and that's much more serious. That's 150 seat. Importantly, this is now licensed, and to operate any kind of work, I'm not thinking about leisure craft, but work boats, to operate, you have to have, of course, permission to do so. You have to have a sign off by the controlling authorities, and we do have that. So UK, in fact, Devon has the pretty unique ability right now to build electric seagoing licensed boats. And this is a lead that we have. It won't last forever. The Dutch, the Norwegians, the Germans are pedaling very hard on this. It won't be long, but we have some momentum on this right now. It's a good opportunity for, well, the Southwest, Devon, but also the UK in general. So we are trying to support them as much as we can. This is Supercat up in East Devon, Northeast Devon, perhaps up near Honiton. Make the Jackal vehicle for the British Armed Forces and lots of others. That's the yellow thing at the top with soldiers hanging off it. But the one below there, which is a little sort of bathtub shaped thing, is a 6-wheel drive, 2.5-ton vehicle. Was diesel, now is electric. And we worked with Supercat to do that. They're moving on to the vehicle on top. So the Jackal vehicle, or Coyote, I think it is. Again, world first in terms of defense vehicles in that kind. Ecomar is a company. Yeah, okay, thanks, Conrad. I shall wrap up. Ecomar is a company that we work with. Again, lots of exciting maritime developments there. And finally is the glamour never ends in my world. And this is a road sweeper, and it's very complicated, more than you ever thought possible. And we're electrifying that thing with Quattro. So I'll end, and just the question for you is, what are we going to do about all the 50% of emissions that aren't road cars, which tend to get ignored a little bit? That's our future. And there are some big questions there. Thank you, Conrad, and everyone.
Thank you, Chris. Fantastic stuff as always. And I'm sure there'll be a fair few people in the virtual auditorium that will want to get involved with this amazing new Centre for Future Mobility. I'm conscious of the time. We've got one last speaker before the break, but please, if you've got any questions for Chris, please put them in the chat feature and then we can pick them up with a follow-up email. Also, just let you know, Martin, thank you very much for adding into the chat some population data. We can stew on that, and that is really good intel. So thanks very much. So here's Chris. Now I'd like to introduce you to Jose, who will outline an innovative solution to some of the key clean mobility infrastructure challenges that have been discussed so far in the form of the Rapid Charging Exeter project. So Jose, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Conrad. Good morning, everyone. Very excited to be here and present the Rapid Charging Exeter project. Rapid Charging Exeter has been a project that let me just go back to the first page. Yeah, so 2018, we presented as a consortium to Innovate UK a project to deploy rapid charging infrastructure in an urban context. Devon County Council, Co-Cars, the EV sharing company in Devon, Sapien Energy, the hardware provider. I will speak about their technology in a minute. Gamma Energy, that's ourselves. I represent Gamma Group in the UK. We're based in Exeter, and we've been here since 2013. Region, a research company based also in Exeter, and Wenair, which is our brand, the Gamma Group brand for EV charging. This consortium presented the project in 2018. We won the government funding to do this, and during 2019 we conducted a very extensive feasibility study to determine the best locations for these chargers, also to determine how best to deploy the technology. And we're now right into the deployment phase. If you walk into Whipton Lane or Colwick Hill, you will see the first civil works that we are doing there for the installation of the chargers. So it's all very exciting now. We can all see the results of three years of hard work. Not sure how to control these slides, but if you could put, oh yeah, there you go. So that's a nice photograph of how it looks like on with the charger sitting by the roadside, and the battery at the back. The green unit at the back is a 50 kilowatt hour battery, and the charger is a 50 kilowatt charger. What that allows us to do is to drip feed the battery from the grid. So in grid constrained areas, this is very significant, in particular urban settings where a lot of the times the grid is constrained, and that allows us to slow charge that battery and then rapid charge the car using the stored energy. Those chargers that you see there, they're the product of Sapien Energy, an innovative startup based in Coventry who have developed this technology, and it's a very unique piece of technology for this particular project. 150 chargers, that's the ambition. That's the amount of chargers we want to put in Exeter and around Exeter. We will also be covering cities around Exeter. So we will be serving those commuters driving in and out of the city. And roughly about 75 sites. So four bays per site, and one of those bays in most cases will include a co-car, an EV, a shared EV. If you could go to the next slide, please. Those are the phase 1A and phase 1B locations. 8 of those locations have already been approved by Devon County Council, and we've started the civil works on. Whipton Lane, I've mentioned already. Cowick Hill is the other one, and the others will follow shortly. There will be a lot more locations in the city of Exeter, and this will be deployed during the course of 2021. It's a £5 million programme, partly funded by the government through Innovate UK and the corporate consortium partners, including ourselves. And noteworthy that more than a third of residents don't have their own off-street parking, meaning that they rely on public charging. It's precisely those types of residents that we want to address with this programme. Next page, please. Gamma Energy owns a 5 megawatt solar park just outside of Exeter in Cullompton. We are committed to supply all energy into our chargers from renewable energy sources, and that's also part of the service that we'll be providing. That's about the solar park will be able to supply 1,500 electric vehicle per year. The needs of energy. Next page, please. Next. Going back to the last page. Sorry. Co-Cars, very important partner in the consortium. They are a cooperative company supported by lots of Exeter residents. Their model is particularly useful for our program because it means that we've identified mainly 2 obstacles to the adoption of EVs. One of them is the price of EVs, and the other one is the lack of charging infrastructure. The second one we are addressing through the deployment of these 150 chargers that I've mentioned. And the first one is co-cars. You can rent a co-car, £5.50 per hour, test it, see whether you like it or not, and then eventually either decide to buy an EV or remain with co-cars. There's a lot of people who are already using co-cars as a permanent solution to their transport needs. So we are hoping, out of each 4 bays, one of them devoted to co-cars, and we are hoping that that will also be a major factor in decarbonizing transport in the city. Next page, please. And the next. How we selected those sites? We used, as I said, 2019, we had a full year where we went through many variables to decide the best locations. We do hope that the current selection of sites is a very good mix where we're addressing most of the residential areas in the city and also around Exeter, Newton, Abbott, Exmouth, Crediton, Cranbrook. All of these towns will also have chargers. Next page, please. As I've mentioned before, 50 kilowatts, that's enough to give you a 75-mile range in about half an hour, which is much better than you would currently achieve in urban charging, such as lamppost charging or fast charging. 30p per kilowatt hour, which is pretty much in line with what you would find in other rapid chargers. And then 4 bays, all of them devoted to electric vehicles. You can only park there if you have an electric vehicle and you are charging. If you're not charging, you can still park there as long as you're only in the overnight window from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. And next page, please. And the technology, key element of the whole program, battery of 50 kilowatt hours with a 50 kilowatt charger, which is a world first in terms of deploying this type and breadth of technology into a single city. We are hoping that with those 150 chargers and with those batteries, anybody who wants to buy an EV and doesn't have off-street parking will find enough charging infrastructure to satisfy their charging needs. And that's it. Thank you very much. Happy to take questions.
Okay. Many thanks, Jose. What a fascinating and impactful project. And so please get in touch with Jose if you'd like to get involved and find out more. Now, I'm conscious of time. It is now just gone 11 o'clock, and it is time for you to engage, liaise, and collaborate in our virtual networking session via the networking tab on the left. So get chatting, make some new friends until 20 past 11, and we should all return to this virtual stage tab to hear from our final 3 fascinating speakers about space-enabled race to net zero, Hitachi intelligent fleet decarbonisation and distributed energy, and collaborative clean mobility funding opportunities, prizes and money up for grabs to help businesses, innovators and researchers to innovate. So let's engage, and we'll see you back here on the stage at 11:20 sharp. Welcome back. I hope you all had a good catch up or made some new influential friends. So welcome to part 2 of the Clean Mobility Show. And I'd now like to introduce you all to Tom Donnelly, who is the business strategy consultant at Satellite Applications Catapult. And he will outline how space-enabled technologies and satellite applications can help with the race to net zero. So Tom, over to you.
Great, thanks, Conrad. Really happy to be given the opportunity to speak here today, so thanks for that. Okay, so first a little about the catapult. We are, the Satellite Applications Catapult is one of 9 catapults that were set up by the government about 10 years ago to try to drive innovation throughout the sectors. So our mission, as you can see there, is to innovate for a better world empowered by satellites, and that's across the spectrum, the satellite spectrum, from upstream, downstream, midstream sources. So who are we? Well, we're government backed, and that's important because that means that we're independent, and it means that companies are happy to work with us. We're not competing with anyone, and our sole aim in life is to help organisations to grow their businesses. And we work closely with companies of all sizes. So some of them are SMEs, some are very large companies, some are pure space businesses, and some have a few percent proportion of space included in their offer. And we'll work with all of them. And our primary focuses are, first of all, ubiquitous connectivity. I think that one's self-explanatory. Geospatial intelligence is satellites looking back at the Earth and feeding oodles of data and photographs and information that we can make decisions on, highly actionable information. And we also work in access to space. So that's where a company has a great idea about a satellite or a satellite technology or a business that's based on satellite technology, and we can help to get their idea on a launch into space so that they can develop it. And we work across all of the sectors in the country. You can see some of them represented at the bottom. My sector is mobility, hence the reason I'm here to talk to you today. Okay, so let's have a look at some satellite-enabled clean mobility elements. There's only so much I can get in within the time, so I've chosen these influences here. And what we have there are 5 things that you can see. Just for anyone who hasn't heard of it, PNT on the left-hand side means position, navigation, and timing. Now, when I start to explain some of these, it won't be immediately obvious how they can contribute to clean energy, but I'll try to join the dots up as we go through, as I talk about each of these sectors. Okay, so first of all, some context. Recent trends in satellite, and the biggest trend here is what we call LEO constellations. So a constellation is a large number of satellites working together, and LEO stands for low Earth orbit. So these satellites are between 500 and 2,000 kilometers away from the Earth. If you compare that to the satellite that delivers a TV signal, that's 36,000 kilometers away from Earth. So they're much, much closer, and that gives them a number of advantages when we're talking about clean mobility. We've also got over 100 new companies that are launching satellites into space. Now, 3 that you may have heard of, the 3 biggest, I think, really, are SpaceX, so that's the one led by Elon Musk of Tesla fame, Blue Origin, which is Jeff Bezos of Amazon, and OneWeb, which the UK government took a big stake in last year. And they are putting really a huge number of satellites into orbit. It's unprecedented. SpaceX, for example, launched 60 satellites on their last launch, and they can launch 60 at a time. They have launched over 1,500 into space, and they're planning to launch a lot more. OneWeb, 650 planned, and Blue Origin, the Amazon company, they're planning to launch over 3,000 satellites into space. You can imagine, in low Earth orbit, literally thousands and thousands of satellites are going to be there, available for us to connect to and to use as we see fit. Okay, so let's move on and see how that's connected to clean mobility. Position, navigation, and timing. You'll be familiar with this if you've ever used a sat-nav or the location device on your phone. That's position and navigation. Timing is also very important. It's used by a multitude of industries, from banking to insurance. It's used in critical national infrastructure, and it is also critical for connected vehicles and autonomous vehicles, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. Now, weather forecasting. Satellites are very good at weather forecasting, and crucially, they're getting much better at it, mainly through the addition of these low Earth orbit satellites. 2 types of weather. First of all, Earth weather. Now, that's very important for reducing emissions, because when we're all driving electric cars and scooters and plugging in electric boats, we'd like to plug them into a grid that's fed by energy generated from renewable sources. So that's solar and wind. So Earth weather prediction obviously is important to that. We can predict the areas not only where it's going to blow in the next few days, but we can find the best sites for locating those sorts of solar farms and wind farms. And we're moving from so-called forecasting to so-called nowcasting. Nowcasting is the weather in the next 2 to 24 hours. So where you're trying to balance a grid and the location of the power generation is changing by the hour because of the weather changes, that's pretty important. You can predict those changes and feed that into the grid and balance it. Space weather is slightly different. That's caused by solar activity, coronal mass ejections. And in periods of high solar activity, there can be damage to grids on the ground. So obviously, again, if we're relying on the grid more for mobility, we need to prevent that damage, and we're getting better at predicting that using satellites to make sure that we stay connected. Okay, so connected and autonomous vehicle. A connected vehicle is one that has a data contract, basically. It communicates very large amounts of data with the internet. And in order to have an autonomous vehicle, you first need a connected vehicle. So autonomous vehicles, there are 5 generally accepted levels of autonomy. Level 1 is a car with cruise control, so they've been around for years. Level 5 is a car without a steering wheel and that has no driver, only passengers. We're not there yet. We're currently about a level 3. And the reason we can't move beyond level 3 is because we don't have the enabling infrastructure. Now, currently, all of those autonomous vehicles that can take control of the vehicle will pass their data. They generate huge quantities of data, and that will need to be transmitted through 2G, 3G, 4G, and now 5G systems with very low latency, because they need to be able to react very quickly. They need very accurate positioning, so the PNT signal is important there. And the problem with 5G connectivity is it won't be everywhere. So if you need to drive outside of an urban area in your automated vehicle, you're going to need some alternative, and that alternative is satellites. And satellites are central to the rollout of 5G connectivity. Autonomous vehicles are important for low emissions because they can be controlled to drive around areas of high pollution, high carbon. They can avoid congestion and accidents that cause congestion. So they're another important element in the mix. Okay, so electrification. This has been mentioned earlier, and electric vehicles need batteries, big batteries, that use huge quantities of minerals. Now, all of those batteries are currently made with lithium. They're lithium-ion batteries. They also need other elements. And the amount of lithium we have will need to be 11 times what it is now in 2030. The forecast is that there won't be enough. We'll only have 50% of that. So we need more lithium mines. It can be mined from seawater, but most of it comes from rock. The problem is that mineral exploration takes between 5 and 10 years before you can open the mine. An even bigger problem, though, is the risk. Only 1 in 1,000 greenfield exploration targets can become profitable. So we need to do something about that. We need to reduce that and skew that more in favor of finding lithium quickly. Now, you might recognize the map here on the right-hand side. This is a program that we're working in at the Catapult. It's called Satellites for Batteries. And the satellites can take data. You can't see the data there. It's been taken out for commercial reasons. But satellites can measure data around geology, vegetation, fault lines in the Earth, environment. And we put that together with artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data analytics and advanced visualization to try to pinpoint the areas where those exploitable seams of lithium and many other minerals can be found. So that's just a flavor of what we're working with at the Catapult. Back to the elements. Hopefully now you can see how those join together and how they're all relevant for low carbon and low emissions mobility. If you need to know any more, get in touch with me. My email address is there. If you'd like to work with us, get in touch also. And thanks again, Conrad, for the opportunity to talk today.
Yeah, cheers for that, Tom. Really good, cutting edge, emerging technologies, and satellites can really help with impactful clean mobility solutions. So that is absolutely fantastic. Again, if anyone's got any questions for Tom, please put it in the chat and then we'll send a follow-up email. We've been getting some questions in via email, so we're going to collate them all together. So thanks very much, Tom. And our penultimate speaker is Sam Nixson from Climate Advisory, and he shall outline Hitachi's intelligent fleet decarbonisation and distributed energy initiatives. So Sam, away you go, sir.
Thanks ever so much, Conrad. Like all the other speakers, I'd like to say thank you so much for the opportunity to share today. Really excited to be here. Absolutely loved everything I've heard from Claire and Linda and Chris and Jose and Tom. So yeah, really exciting. So first, by way of a bit of context, I'm from Climate Advisory, but this deck is all about Hitachi. So let me just explain a little bit of why that is. So Climate Advisory is a startup. We started in December last year. We're an experienced bunch of co-founders. There are 3 of us. Our experience ranges from private business, public sector. We all at different times work with UK Met Office. We've worked in startups right the way through to global corporates. And our business, Climate Advisory, if you want to go and have a look online, it's climateadvisory.org. Our tagline is unlocking the value of weather and climate data. Now, what do we mean by that? We mean both societal and commercial value. And we're driven by 2 areas of activity. The first area is actually help desk climate data, making it available, helping it to be usable and integratable into solutions. And in that area, we're working with financial services regulator at the moment and different members of the financial services market and larger commercial organizations. But the bit for today is about climate change action. It's about delivering meaningful outcomes around sustainability and the drive to net zero. It means bringing that experience that we've all got as in Climate Advisory to work with our partners and customers to co-create strategies, use cases, market engagement, look at proposition development, product and service development, market engagement. So the whole go-to-market for the sort of solutions we've been talking about today. So when we established the business, our launch customer was Hitachi. But not any old bit of Hitachi, actually Hitachi's social innovation business. And the social innovation business is a fantastic global initiative. So we're talking about a business that's a $100 billion turnover innovator. We talk about 800 plus companies, nearly 300,000 involved in the business, and a 3 billion R&D budget. So to be allowed to work on the program that we're working on for SIB was just an absolute dream to start with, and we work with them today. The tagline for them is powering good. So what if cities made life better for the people who live and work there? What if healthier life was a given for all, not someday, but today? So very much echoing a lot of what we heard earlier on in the presentations this morning. Answering the world's social and environmental needs is possible, but it can only have organisations commit to innovating for the greater good. So what does it mean to power good? When we come together and we think on a global scale, we can improve the quality of life across the world, and we can create environmental conscious society that helps society as a whole, but also those we're working with, to raise their corporate value. In doing so, we don't just power good for this generation, but for generations to come. The social innovation business covers manufacturing, finance, mobility, healthcare, agriculture, urban development, masses of areas. We acknowledge that it's complex to overcome today's challenges. And in each of those areas, there are particular subjects that need addressing. That's why it's essential to co-create with various partners to deliver the change that the world needs, to make real and lasting change. So we even go a little further. Hitachi as a business has been powering a better world for over 110 years and creating safer, smarter society by integrating that rich expertise in social infrastructure and digital technology. Our collaborative creation with customers is now accelerating even more. And with Hitachi's advanced digital solutions, services and technologies, we're turning data into insights to drive these digital innovations. So if we narrow down to the topic for today, this is the area that I and the team from Climate Advisory are working on, which is Hitachi's Intelligent Fleet Decarbonisation Programme. If we look at this infographic, it's incredibly busy. I hope you can see it more clearly on your screen than it is on my little display. We're aligning a massive internal resources and expertise and experience to engage a network of partners. So this isn't all just about Hitachi and its group companies. It is about working with partners across the globe to co-create the solutions with our customers that have got a real positive impact because they deliver this long-lasting positive outcome for the business and the environment. So looking at this from left to right, we have low carbon transport. We're engaged with fleet charging, end-to-end EV asset management. So as we were hearing about today, things like depot charging, the infrastructure around depots and fleet management and scheduling. E-buses, we're working right now with a number of major bus companies, both here in the UK, in the US, and across Europe. And quite rightly, it was said earlier, electric isn't the solution to everything. Although we're working with EHGVs and e-buses and the LCVs, we're also working with hydrogen and so on, alternative fuel sources. All of this requires energy. So where we look at the EV infrastructure that's required, there's grid connectivity. There are massive challenges around grid capacity, managing how and when power is consumed, how to optimize those activities. And then we can look more broadly at mobility as a service. So we heard a little bit more earlier on in one of the presentations about integrated multimodal booking and payment, making it easy for people to access not only your trains or your cars, but your electric scooters, your electric bicycles, different forms of mass rapid transit. Alongside that, you have traffic management. You have the need at the moment to integrate and optimize the vehicles that are occupying the roads, because obviously there's a transitional phase going from the vehicles that, as they are at the moment, the ICE vehicles, how they now work alongside the infrastructure required for electric vehicles. We're also a headline sponsor for COP26. We're a sponsor for the transportation area. We've been working with a number of companies in order to build out case studies, looking with them at their drive to net zero. Now, this is across all sectors. So an example here that we've drawn from a food manufacturing company that we're working with, this was their vision that they shared with us of what they wanted: integrated workplace charging, electrifying their company car fleet, intelligently using their car parking for things like canopies to give solar charging, storing power when it's cheap, selling it when it's expensive in order to offset the cost of decarbonising their fleets. Not just looking at the fleets in isolation, but looking at buildings, their consumption of power, balancing the demand and the grid connectivity for these particular sites, ensuring that there's headroom, ensuring that they are optimizing the size of the connection they have to the grid, and looking forward to HGVs. So actually there are some HGVs available, and we are able to make them available through Hitachi Capital Vehicle Solutions right now, but they're up to sort of 18 to 22 tons, not the big sort of 44 tonners and so on. As an industry leader in grid to plug connectivity, we actually last year, we bought and integrated ABB power grids into the Hitachi family. The reason for doing that was because of their experience in microgrids. So within our family of businesses, we're able to talk with organizations, with local authorities, with operators, bus operators and so on, about having installed 200 microgrids across the 7 continents on the planet. This really helps us to build on deep dive expertise that we can then share. On the right hand side of this infographic, there's lots of stuff that's just too much to go through today, because I'm seeing time is marching away. But the excitement here is how you optimize your fleet, how you optimize your existing ICE fleet, how you reduce the number of vehicles that you need in total before you even start looking at things like decarbonisation and moving across to ELCVs and so on. We're working on the biggest commercial vehicle EV trial in the world. It's called Optimise Prime. I would suggest you Google it perhaps after this event. We're dealing with up to 3,000 commercial vehicles at once, and how to optimize their activities, how to ensure there is adequate charging at depots, home charging, and the integration of all of those kind of systems. But these are real life challenges that we're working with at the moment. So in the final countdown, we're working with 3 different sets of solutions. The thing I would like you to take away today is that we're working with our e-bus solution, we're working with an e-vehicle solution, we're working with an e-depot solution, but we're also looking to work with more partners. So if you have novel technologies and capabilities that you believe might fit within our family of solutions, please feel free to reach out to me and have a conversation. We'd love to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.
Wow, many thanks, Sam. That really is mind-blowing, cutting-edge innovations from Hitachi. So much going on, and as Sam said, please get in touch with him if you'd like to explore further and collaborate and get involved, because that is incredibly exciting. So thanks very much. So okay then, last but not least, we have Simon Buckley, who is the Zero Emissions Mobility Lead at KTN, the Knowledge Transfer Network, and he will highlight clean mobility innovation opportunities within the UK to help people get involved. And so, Simon, you have the finale, sir.
Yeah, I'm not sure it'll be that exciting. Thank you very much, Conrad, for the opportunity to speak today, and thank you to everyone for listening to the presentation. What I'm going to do today is look at some of the funding opportunities in the clean mobility space, and also try and talk about what the KTN can do to help and support you, and look at what might be coming up at the end of 2021 and 2022. It's very clear that it's a key part of the government's green revolution, is how we decarbonise the mobility sector. As Conrad said, I look after zero emission mobility, and that covers everything from micro mobility solutions up to aviation. So it was nice to hear about the Future Flight project that KTN are heavily involved in as a programme earlier on today. So the KTN, just very quickly, we connect people for positive change. It's like an advanced matchmaking service, and we'll go about exactly how that works for you as a company or an academic or another organisation, and how we can support your ideas, which will help us with innovation that will help us meet net zero as soon as possible. I'm going to go straight in, because I've not got that much time, to the different competitions that are open currently that might be of interest to you. The first one I'm going to talk about is the Clean Maritime Demonstration Competition, and this is 2 strands. It's a £20 million competition. It's run by DFT. Well, that's where the money comes from, but it's through the Innovate UK, the delivery partner. They are seeking solutions for all sizes and categories of maritime vessels, and that include ports, vessel operators, vessel manufacturers, and the relevant supply chain that supports those. And this is all about decarbonising and reducing emissions from that sector. So I think the maritime sector knows that there are a lot of opportunities to decarbonise and cross-sectorial expertise to take from some of the other sectors. And obviously, as a naval nation, and particularly in the southwest, there are a lot of ports and maritime activity. So I hope that this might be of interest. The bad news, if you haven't heard about it, you need to apply by the 2nd of June. So it's not very long, but please contact us if you want to hear more about that, or if you've got a project idea. You must have total eligible project cost between 25,000 and 4 million, and that depends on which strand. And the project is only 7 months long, so it's quite a quick fire delivery program. And that's a common theme across all the things I'm going to talk about, and I'll talk a little bit more about why at the end. The next one I want to talk about, this is an opportunity for companies in the southwest who have technology to do with hydrogen, to deploy that technology in the Teesside region. So in the northeast, there is a hydrogen hub competition that we launched yesterday, or Innovate UK launched yesterday. Again, it's a DFT funded program, and it's very much a demonstration program. So they want hydrogen transportation solutions that can go across freight vehicles, light commercial vehicles, mobile construction plant, maritime, inland waterway vessels, trains, buses, forklift trucks. So the whole kind of vast array of transportation, including the stuff that Chris was talking about earlier. And they want some of these transportation solutions on the ground within the next 4 to 5 months from when the competition starts. So you must have eligible costs between £200,000 and 1 million. We can help connect you with the end users who would be interested in your technology. So if you have got a hydrogen solution that you would like to try and deploy in the Teesside region, this competition might be for you. And you need to apply by the 16th of June. Driving the electric revolution. This is focusing on the UK PMD supply chain. And it's a part of an 80 million funded program. In this case, it's 22 million that is available for innovation. They have to be collaborative. So you have to have 3 different layers of that supply chain. They can be quite long, between 18 and 36 months in duration, and up to 5 million in total costs. This is all about manufacturing readiness level. So it's not about developing new ideas per se. It's more about, you've got an idea and you want to scale it up. How can you do that? And that is where this funding works. It's across clean mobility, clean energy, and basically anything that might have a power electronics element in, or electrical machine element. 30th of June 2021 is when that closes. I'm going to talk quickly about the European opportunities as well. We actually do quite well on this as a country, and we are eligible to participate, even though we've now left the EU. And I think it would be great to have some applications here. There's a contact name there, Louise Mothersall, with her email address, where you can contact her because she's the lead contact point for your entry into those European consortia. It's opened on 15th of April, and the deadline is 7th of September. A lot of money there, a lot of different themes, which are all related to clean mobility. So if you're interested in that, you can contact me or you can contact Louise. The kind of relevant funding opportunities that are available at the moment. There are a few others through the Advanced Propulsion Centre, which tend to be larger one-off projects with, say, an OEM involved that have to be above 5 million. And they run every quarter. Please contact me if you want to understand a little bit more about those. I wanted to quickly talk about strategic networks. At the KTN, we won 3 of them at the moment: decarbonising ports and harbours, a cross-sector battery innovation network, and hydrogen economy one. Now, the hydrogen economy one is all about the demand side. So it links very closely actually with the hydrogen Teesside hub in terms of what we're trying to achieve with that. You can sign up. We've got over 1,500 members at the moment, so be part of that community. The cross-sector battery systems innovation network is about taking automotive technology and putting that into, say, a maritime setting or another. And decarbonising ports and harbours is obviously looking at the on-land activity and the port marine activity. So it's not necessarily about the ships coming in, although we can help provide power to those. All networks advise you to keep up with the latest. So finally, funding opportunities. Look out for Transport Decarbonisation Plan. This is due out in spring, which should be any time now. And I think this will closely align with funding. If you look at this, there's a new spending review that should be due in the autumn, and that will really set the scene for future R&D funding rounds. So thank you very much. Any questions, let me know. And this is, as KTN, is what we can offer you.
Many thanks, Simon. It's great to know there's a wealth of available collaborative funding opportunities out there and coming along, and to enable and accelerate clean mobility innovation. So if any members of our Exist community would like to get involved with collaborative funding opportunities, then please get in touch with us, and we are here to help, and we can connect up and get consortiums going. So thank you, Simon. So hopefully I've got control of the slides. Let's go back one. Okay, so I'd just like to say many thanks to all our speakers for their inspirational talks. And as mentioned earlier, we will send out a post-event email, hopefully next week, with the webinar recording, consented slides, and answers to any key questions raised today. And we've had quite a few emails with different questions that have come in. So join today. If you have an interest in STEM, then get on board, because if you become an Exist member, we can help you to accelerate your STEM-related innovations. You don't have to be an Exeter Chamber member to become a member of Exist, and we offer a wealth of key benefits, including raising your business profile, collaborative STEM-related opportunities, and discounted tickets for future Exist physical events, for example. And Exeter Chamber is also looking to the future to provide data and insights around key challenges facing the regional economy and Exeter's business community. And the first relevant topic is the future of transport. So please look out for their survey, which will be launched within the next week or so, to gather useful information on important topics, including travel to work, congestion, public transport needs, active travel, and sustainability. The survey data will be used to evaluate the changing landscape for travel within and around Exeter, gather data to help you make decisions, and will give Exeter Chamber the authority to lobby for improvements on your behalf. So our next Exist event is planned around the pioneering health innovation. We've scheduled it for Thursday, the 11th of November, and please get in touch if you'd like to get involved, if you'd like to speak, if you know some good, inspirational innovators that are doing some really good health and well-being initiatives. And also, the key question is, should it be a virtual event or a physical event? We value your opinion. The power is yours, so please take a quick poll in the chat there to help us decide whether it should be a physical one or we should keep it virtual. So that's that. And once again, many thanks for our fantabulous sponsors for helping us make this event a virtual reality. You're all ace. And more importantly, thank you all for joining us today. It has been a real pleasure. I wish you all an ace day. Stay safe, and hopefully we'll all catch up soon. And if you want to find out more, please get in touch. As I said, we are happy to help. So bye.